What if I told you there's a battery right now being tested on actual roads that charges faster than you can grab a coffee, lasts longer than your mortgage, and makes catching fire basically impossible? Yeah, I know. Sounds like science fiction. But here's the thing. It's real, it's happening, and it might just be the nail in the coffin for gas-powered vehicles. We're talking about solid-state battery technology, and one company has just leapfrogged everyone else with numbers that seem almost too good to be true. Stick around because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you think about electric cars. So let's get one thing straight right off the bat. Electric vehicles have had three massive problems since day one. First, you're constantly worried about running out of juice in the middle of nowhere. Second, when you do need to charge, you're sitting at a charging station for what feels like an eternity. And third, there's always that nagging fear in the back of your mind about battery fires. We've all seen the headlines. Now, what if I told you that all three of these problems could vanish overnight? That's exactly what's happening right now. Here's where things get absolutely wild. There's a new type of battery that doesn't use any of the liquid components that have been holding electric cars back. Instead, it uses completely solid materials. Think of it like this. Traditional batteries are kind of like having a water balloon inside your car. Sure, it works, but it's risky, it has limitations, and one wrong move could spell disaster. Solid-state batteries? They're more like a block of solid ice. Stable, predictable, and way more powerful. And the numbers coming out right now are genuinely mind-blowing. Picture this. You're driving from one end of a massive country to the other. We're talking about distances that would normally require multiple stops, multiple charges, and a whole lot of planning. Now imagine doing that entire journey on a single charge. Not barely squeaking by, but comfortably cruising with range to spare. We're looking at vehicles that can travel over 1,500 kilometers without needing to plug in once. To put that in perspective, that's like driving from Los Angeles to Seattle without stopping for fuel, or London to Rome, or pretty much any epic road trip you can imagine. Suddenly, electric vehicles aren't just a city car solution anymore. They're legitimate long-distance road trip machines. But here's where it gets even crazier. Remember how I mentioned charging takes forever? Well, forget that too. With this new technology, you can go from nearly empty to 80% charged in just 10 minutes. 10 minutes! That's literally less time than it takes to use the restroom, grab a snack, and stretch your legs. In fact, it's faster than filling up a conventional gas tank when you factor in payment and everything else. You could add over 1,000 kilometers of range in the time it takes to scroll through social media. This isn't an incremental improvement. This is a complete game changer that fundamentally transforms the entire electric vehicle experience. Now, let's talk about something that keeps a lot of people up at night. Safety. You've probably seen the viral videos of electric vehicles catching fire, right? Those images stick in your mind. Here's what's happening in traditional batteries. There's a liquid inside that's actually flammable. When things go wrong, when there's a short circuit or physical damage, you can get what's called thermal runaway. That's basically a chain reaction where the battery gets hotter and hotter until boom. Fire. It's terrifying, and it's a legitimate concern. But with solid-state technology, that entire risk essentially disappears. The materials inside aren't flammable. Period. Engineers have taken these batteries and literally driven nails through them, crushed them, heated them to extreme temperatures. And you know what happened? Nothing. They just kept working. The temperature at which these things would even theoretically become dangerous is so high that it would never happen in real-world conditions. We're talking about safety at a fundamental chemical level, not just adding more protective layers and hoping for the best. And if you live somewhere cold, oh man, have I got news for you. Anyone who's owned an electric car in a freezing climate knows the pain. Your range drops dramatically when temperatures plummet. Your car struggles to start. It's frustrating. Solid-state batteries laugh in the face of winter. These things maintain 85% of their efficiency even at minus 30 degrees. They can start your vehicle at minus 40. That's colder than most of us will ever experience. No more babying your car through winter. No more watching your range indicator drop like a rock. Just consistent, reliable performance no matter what Mother Nature throws at you. But wait, there's more. And this might actually be the most impressive part. Lifespan. Traditional electric vehicle batteries start degrading pretty much immediately. After a few years, you're noticing reduced range. After a decade, you're looking at potentially needing a very expensive replacement. It's one of the biggest concerns people have about buying used electric vehicles. Solid-state technology completely flips this script. These batteries can handle over 10,000 charge cycles while still maintaining more than 90% of their original capacity. Let's do some quick math here. If you charge your car once per day, which is way more than most people do, that's still over 27 years of use. 27 years! This battery will outlive the car it's installed in. It'll outlive your loan. It might outlive your next two cars. Suddenly, worrying about battery degradation becomes as relevant as worrying about your gas tank wearing out. It's not even a concern anymore, so the technology is incredible. We've established that. But here's the million-dollar question. When can you actually buy one of these miracle batteries? Because let's be honest, we've been promised revolutionary battery technology before, and it always seems to be just 5 years away. Every single year. Well, this time things are genuinely different, and the timeline might shock you. One major player has been quietly working on this since way back in 2016. No hype, no big announcements, just heads-down research and development. Then, earlier this year, they dropped a bombshell. They announced that they've already installed these solid-state batteries in actual test vehicles. Not prototypes sitting in a lab, actual cars driving on actual roads right now. They're testing them in real-world conditions, gathering data, and refining the technology. That puts them miles ahead of almost everyone else who's still trying to prove the technology works on paper. Here's their roadmap, and it's aggressive. By 2027, just a couple years from now, they're planning to start small-scale production. We're talking about limited runs in super high-end vehicles first. Think supercars and luxury models where price isn't the primary concern. This lets them work out any remaining kinks and optimize the manufacturing process. Then by 2030, the floodgates open. Mass production begins, and these batteries start appearing in mainstream vehicles that regular people can actually afford. By 2033, they're projecting this becomes standard technology, with production ramping up to over 120,000 units. That's not some distant science fiction timeline. We're talking about technology that could be in your driveway within the next 5 to 8 years. Now, they're not the only ones in this race. There's another massive battery manufacturer that's also pushing hard into solid-state technology. Their lab samples have actually achieved even higher energy density numbers. Over 500 watt-hours per kilogram, which is absolutely insane. Their timeline is similar, targeting small-scale production by 2027, probably for premium manufacturers first, with mass production ramping up around 2030. It's neck and neck, and honestly, the competition is fierce. Then you've got some of the legacy automakers who've been researching this stuff for literally decades. One company in particular holds more patents in solid-state battery technology than anyone else. But here's the thing. Patents don't equal products. They've been extremely cautious, announced multiple delays, and keep pushing their timelines back. Their current target is to have the first vehicles by 2026 or 27, but the path from there to actual mass production seems fuzzy at best. It's the classic innovator's dilemma. They have the knowledge, but they're hesitant to disrupt their own successful business model. And then there's the wild card. The company everyone loves to talk about. They're pouring billions into a solid-state production line, but they're being typically secretive about their timeline. The biggest challenge they're facing, and honestly everyone's facing, is solving something called interface stability at scale. It's one thing to make a battery work in a lab. It's another thing entirely to manufacture millions of them consistently. There's even speculation they might debut the technology in their humanoid robots before putting it in vehicles, which honestly would be a pretty smart way to test it in a controlled environment first. But here's the key takeaway from all this. When you look at who has clear timelines, who has working prototypes, and who has realistic plans for mass production, one player emerges as the clear frontrunner. They're not just talking about the technology. They're actively testing it, refining it, and preparing to scale it up. That's a huge difference. Now, there's one final piece of this puzzle that determines whether this technology actually matters. Cost. Because here's the brutal truth. Revolutionary technology that nobody can afford isn't revolutionary. It's just expensive. Right now, the materials used in solid-state batteries cost 3 to 5 times more than conventional batteries. That's a massive problem. If these batteries make cars unaffordable, then all the benefits we've talked about become irrelevant. So how do you solve this? Here's where things get really interesting, and where one company has a truly unfair advantage. First, they've developed completely proprietary manufacturing processes. According to patent filings and industry insiders, they've created a special composite electrode technology that dramatically reduces production costs. We're talking about potentially slashing the cost per kilowatt hour by 35% compared to other approaches. That's enormous. And here's the kicker. Most Western analysis completely misses this because the details are buried in technical patents that most people don't bother reading. Second, they control everything in-house. And I mean everything. From the raw materials all the way through to the final battery pack. Most companies have to buy components from various suppliers, each taking their cut and adding complexity. But when you own the entire supply chain, you can optimize every single step, eliminate middlemen, and control costs in ways your competitors simply can't match. It's the difference between assembling a puzzle with pieces from different manufacturers versus designing and making every piece yourself. The efficiency gains are massive. Third, scale. They're not thinking small. They're planning a completely carbon-neutral battery production facility with a target capacity of 200 gigawatt-hours per year by 2026. To put that in perspective, that's enough to power millions upon millions of vehicles. When you're producing at that kind of volume, your per-unit costs plummet. It's basic economics, but most companies can't reach that scale fast enough to make it matter. Their ultimate goal is fascinating. By 2030, they want to achieve what they're calling price parity. The moment when a solid-state battery costs the same as a conventional battery. Think about what that means. If you can buy a battery that's safer, longer-lasting, faster charging, and higher range for the same price as an inferior battery, why would anyone choose the old technology? Game over. The transition becomes inevitable and unstoppable. So let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture here. The era of solid-state batteries isn't some distant fantasy anymore. It's arriving. Based on everything we've looked at, one company isn't just prepared for this shift. They're actively driving it. They've got leading technology, the clearest roadmap to mass production, and cost advantages that are borderline unfair. They're positioning themselves to absolutely dominate the next generation of electric vehicles. And here's what makes this truly significant. This technology represents an actual point of no return for the automotive industry. We're talking about vehicles that are objectively superior to gasoline cars in virtually every measurable way. Safer? Check. Longer range? Absolutely. Faster to refuel? Yep. Longer lasting? By decades. When this becomes mainstream, and it will, the debate about whether to go electric essentially ends. It won't be about convincing people to sacrifice convenience for the environment anymore. It'll just be the obvious superior choice. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think Western manufacturers and the established players can catch up to this 2027 to 2030 timeline? Or is this race already over, with market dominance locked in for the next decade? Because from where I'm sitting, the gap looks pretty substantial. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Who wins this race and why? I'm genuinely curious to hear what you think. If this deep dive into the future of transportation got your brain spinning, do me a solid and smash that like button. Subscribe if you want more content like this, breaking down the technologies that are reshaping our world. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because I'm telling you, the next 5 years in the automotive industry are going to be absolutely wild. We're living through a genuine revolution in real time. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.